Hello, welcome to the Train and Gain podcast. You guys haven't seen us before, but my name is John Kioskarides. It's a mouthful, I know. It's the long Greek last name. My longtime friend here of about, 20 years now has been?
18, 20 years.
18, 20 years.
Very long time.
Introduce yourself, my friend.
My name is John DePaul. I'm from Brooklyn, and fitness was my game since I'm 9. I'm in this real early, and I'm in this for the long haul, too.
Exactly. And I mean, we kind of wanted to get something together because fitness has always been a big part of both our lives. And I'm also from Brooklyn, born and raised. And as we had progressed through courses of time in our own life, we kind of hit it off again. So I reconnected with John after 10 years of not seeing him. You know how life is. And I saw him training at the gym one day, and I was like, I did a double take. I didn't say anything. Okay. And then, that part of me was like, all right, let me just walk away because I was kind of shy and I don't know, maybe a little intimidated. And then I said, why am I feeling this way? If it's not John, I'll just look silly for 1 second and then I just go about my day. But I approached John and lo and behold, it was the same guy. And he took off my mask and he went did a quick double take and then it was a big embrace. So I love this guy from the bottom of my heart. And I've learned so much from you throughout the years.
Thank you. I thought he was a ninja when he approached me. He had a rag, what do you call those things, a bandana?
Yeah.
And then he had this black mask. I thought he was a sniper or a ninja. So I said, did I do something wrong? And I says, wait a minute, identify yourself. It was Johnny.
It's so funny.
Same guy since 22.
Yeah, man. I mean, thankful to hear about that. Seriously. The first thing I wanted to talk about with this is, there are so many people out there that want to get into health and fitness. And, right off the bat, we're not trying to preach that we're gurus or we're not trying to preach something from Fitness Magazine. We just want to give you the honest approach to how I've lived it and how I continue to have it as part of my life. And also how Big John here, I always say, wants to live it and continues it to be a part of his life as well.
Preach it and live it. That's keywords.
Exactly. So, I mean, first off, I'd like to say, what got you into
working out,
fitness or training? I know I've heard this one story from you before, about the weight bench. And I would love for you to talk about that because it was really, it wasn't something that I heard that I said, oh, wow, this is interesting. I thought it was interesting, yes, but I felt like it defined you from that moment and it made me think in a different way. I was like, wow, that's such a powerful moment for a young guy at that time.
Yeah. I was 9 years old, man. It's quite a story. So I was 9 years old, and I used to watch the Hulk a lot, like a natural kid. I did, Lou Ferrigno. But I had like internalized anger when I was a kid. I was an angry kid for reasons unknown. And I remember watching him turn green, and I said the only way he could be so big is the guy lifts weights. So I approached my mom one day. Mom, can I get a weight bench? No. Why? I don't want to stun your growth. A very big fallacy, by the way. You're either going to be big or you're going to be small. It's DNA related. But besides the point.
And how old were you then?
I was 9 years old. I wanted to go to Consumers across the street and buy a $100 bench, and it was gold. So she said no. I went to my cousin Carmine. He gives me the money. And back in the day, when you had to ride a bus, you had to be a certain height. They'd have a marker on there.
I was at the tail end of that, but I remember it. I remember it on the rides because I'm 5'7", but I remember it everywhere pretty much.
It's a true story too, by the way. So I remember getting on. I don't know where I was going. I don't remember how I got there, but from asking people, take this bus, son, don't do this one. I got on the right bus. So I pay my money, I take a ride, I get there, I buy it, and as I'm coming out, the box is seemingly higher than me. So what do you think happens when I go to get back on the bus?
And it was a pretty far distance, right? Because people that don't know, Kings Highway area.
Kings Plaza.
It was like what? Like 10 miles?
Flatbush Avenue, I would say.
That's far for a little guy to
8
get
miles.
to, on public transportation.
Get to? How about coming home to? I didn't take a bus. I was my transportation. The bus guy would not let me on. He goes, I'm sorry, son, the box is higher than you. And, you just made the lever.
So you went over there, you had this big weight bench. What was going through your mind at that point?
I couldn't wait to get home and tear it open like a kid on a candy aisle or Christmas. I wanted to start lifting weights. First, I thought about my brother, actually. I'm like, will he put this together today? Because I want it today. And when I want something, I wanted it. That hasn't changed to this day.
It's interesting also to hear that because at that age, you're thinking of, I know for myself, I was thinking of video games and, other stuff that's unrelated, but your mind was so, I think, mature at that time and driven, of course, yeah.
Well, I loved video games too. I also wanted to be the first kid in front of the store when it was maybe a sale, right? But it made me more driven because I wanted to be like Ferrigno. So I put the thing on my back. I must have stopped 200 times. 200 times. I finally come to my corner, and as I'm getting home, my back is looking like this, lower and lower and lower. So who do you think walks out of my house? My mother, looking for her mail like she typically does. And she's looking at me like, why is he struggling? What's on your back? I said, it's a weight bench, Ma. And she looked at me like, she didn't get mad. First, she looked a little confused. So a little confused, and she just walked in like, I can't win. He wants it, he wants it. It's my son. And I lifted weights. I naturally got cut really quick.
That still blows my mind, even thinking about, I mean, just like a 9-year-old guy with a weight bench on his back. I mean, thinking of something like that as far as dedication goes, I mean, you're carrying it, what you said you stopped about 200 times. I mean, the amount of time that took you just to get home.
I don't even remember.
Some people would have just kicked it to the side.
I wouldn't even know. I could tell you this much, though. When I wanted it, I wanted it. Nothing stops me. I just say, hey, you know what will stop me? There's a bench right here. Sit down, pick up, and you just become driven, man. You just want to get it home.
And you think that set the tone for the rest of your life from then onwards, as far as having that piece of equipment in your house to kind of get yourself pushed every day? Is that you need a kick?
So I don't think it's something you could explain. I think it's something you attain. You attain such mental discipline thinking, if I went this far with this on my back at 9 years old and stopped a million times, why should it be hard to put one foot in front of the other and go to the gym, right? And when you go there, you're only cheating yourself if you're not going hard. I knew what I had to do all the years to get big. I knew what I had to do. I got different goals now, but just the drive was always there. It was implanted. I planted it here at 9 years old. I said, no one's getting the bench for you. No one cares. Everyone's opposed to the idea. You want to go behind your parents' back. It's what you did. Now you got to go from one place to the next. You got to get it home. It's going to rain soon, maybe. Or
Sure.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's like, every time I hear that, I use it as an example because at the same time, coming from where I came from, it's so funny how close we were in proximity. We know each other at those different eras of our life, as far as where I lived.
We were working out. You're talking about?
Not even working out, but like I lived in the Bensonhurst area. It's like you were in the same area. I didn't even know you were.
Oh, I think you were in Diker, I think. Like 15th Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the old meat shop.
You know why it's like that? Because we're quiet people.
It's true. And I mean, I feel like for me, how I got into the gym is I was dealing with a lot of, neighborhood kids that I didn't want to be associated with much anymore during my early teens. It always happens. And I feel like in big cities especially, you have a lot of that going around. That's why all these like after school programs are so, important, I think now. Yeah. But, going back then, thinking about it, I said, okay, what was my after school program? I had none. I played sports. I played basketball. I mean, was I at a collegiate level? Yeah, but I wasn't progressing past like a Division III. It wasn't something I was going to make a career out of.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was the same monotony every single day. I had no real option for having someone associated with a goal to help me be more driven. I had that within myself. It was the little sparks forming.
Tiny, but they form.
At the same time. And so I said, okay, let me just walk to the nearest gym because I wanted to get better at my jump shot. I wanted to get my legs stronger. I want to get my arms stronger.
A valid reason, not like I want to impress the girl on the beach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, just like what I had, yeah.
Yeah, and being, I would say growing up, I wasn't shy. I was more like a reserved. You had to kind of pry things out of me in order to kind of understand me as a person. But the more you get to know each other, obviously you get older, it becomes easier. But as a young kid then, I was just got in there and, was I intimidated? Hell yeah, I was. I mean, I see these giants in there. That was a different era too. That sort of trickled off of the golden age, right?
I miss that age so much.
It was the best. I mean,
that's what defined the whole sport. Then I got redefined, unfortunately.
Yeah, it did. We're definitely going to talk about that.
For the better and for the worse, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I get into this gym and it felt like this old, leaky ceiling to a degree, hardcore gym that I was in.
Yeah.
And I remember going there progressively and I met power lifters and I met, bodybuilders, and I was never exposed to the sport because Arnold has always been a hero of mine growing up because I always admired what he had accomplished in fitness. Johnny, and I had posted pictures on my wall.
Quick question, just for the audience.
Yeah.
What gym was that you found hardcore?
It was Dolphin Fitness, but it was the old Dolphin Fitness, right on 15th Avenue, between 15th and 16th Avenue and 86th Street.
Okay, yeah.
Really awesome gym. I thought that was there. Now things have evolved to a different place. I feel like the gym is still equipped enough, but that was like I don't know, there was a different aura in that gym. There was a camaraderie. There was you walk in and you feel people are not against you,
right.
And I know what that feeling is like, especially walking in there. I'm not saying I'm a huge guy now, but I was scrawny and skinny and I didn't know much. And I was, a little bit terrified, out of my comfort zone. But I really felt a welcoming, embodiment from everyone that was in that gym at that time.
So they made you feel better about how you felt when you were walking in, pretty much.
Oh, it was amazing. And you start getting these endorphins and then like adrenaline starts running and you want to keep going back. And
so great, right?
It was fantastic.
I know.
And when you get into that mindset, what happens to you? Kind of something clicks.
Then you just keep driving. You don't look back. You keep riding hard.
Yeah, exactly.
So everything goes away. When you first get into the gym, a million things go through your brain, especially when you work, you pay bills, blah, blah, blah. But once those first 2 sets kick in, it's over. You just put it into...
You put it into overdrive.
Forward, man. Overdrive.
Exactly. Yeah. So, after entering this, I started, I asked questions. I just was like, I see some guy doing a big deadlift. And I said, oh, what is that? What does that work out? How do you do this? And, you'd get the intimidation face of, who's this guy here? You're looking at me. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
I remember
great.
with Big Ali, because you know him, he used to be like, you got a good physique. And I would look at myself and say, me, I don't even know what this guy's talking about. Wow. But what I didn't realize then.
You didn't understand his accent? Or?
Well, no, I didn't realize. That was also partially one thing. But, I didn't realize is that he was actually giving me positive reinforcement.
Yes.
And actually aiding me. And I feel like a lot of that's lacking. So I was lucky enough to be part of that and be embraced. And then eventually I stopped hanging out with the kids that were doing drugs in my neighborhood, and I didn't want to be a part of or associated with that. So I go to the gym.
You've seen where you had more self-worth. You start seeing what you're really worthy when you put yourself, you're never going to know 100%, but when you go into a certain surrounding and you feel like you're part of it, your body resonates, not just your brain, your body resonates with it. You feel safe, you feel cool, you identify with each other, same value system you share. You flock with it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Right?
And I feel like nowadays there's so many things that are involved where, even me going to different gyms now, I've always embraced this part of my life because I knew from then on it would be something that I always wanted to be a part of. I wanted to always have it within me because not only did it make me feel good, but I had, like you said, a sense of self-worth. It was something more than myself at that point. I knew it would be something either like a goal-driven drive, which then I got into bodybuilding. And from then on, it kind of took off.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
I remember when I was about 15, 16, they wouldn't let me in the gym. I was underage. So, and the back of I think I told you this, the back of the gym, they had a door that was open. It was hot in the summer, and he had an oscillating fan. So I was thinking, sneak right through in there and work out. I didn't really know you get in trouble. I just knew you couldn't do it.
Like sneaking into the movie theater.
If I could get around it and watch the movie still without paying at that age, you would do it. And plus, I wanted to do it. I didn't feel like I was doing something wrong. I'm working out. I'm going to do it in the park. So I get into there, and I had really good genetics. I was a kid, though. I'm looking around going, some of these people are really big, and I spot this one really big guy. As I'm working out, I'm looking at him, I just get up and I start walking towards him. And I see him looking at his friend, the energy changed where they're like, this kid's really closing in.
It's coming into my essence here.
It's getting right into my territory. But I'm a kid, what can I do?
Yeah.
So I know he was going to go into a guarded position. He goes, can I help you, kid? I said, yeah. Excuse me, sir, can you teach me to get big like you? He looked at his friend, and they were like smirking, like laughing. And I'm like, what is he laughing at? So he goes, kid, you got more balls than half the men in this gym. because you're 14.
Did that make you feel intimidated before you approached him? Was it something that's
I wasn't intimidated by him. I wasn't even intimidated by him. I just says this is the biggest one. My brain doesn't think that way. It just walks towards it. I just had to fill my body and I wanted to get big and strong. But he looked at me like, where's he going? And when I told him what I wanted him to do, he goes, I can only show you one thing. You're going to slow me down, but you got a lot of balls and courage, kid. He showed me a tricep push down only years later for me to realize it was the wrong form. But I was so happy that he helped me. And he was the biggest guy in the gym. I was like, oh, this is like gold. This is like gospel truth. But naturally, down the road, you start seeing people who have imbalances. Why? Their form gets bad. It leads to problems.
Yeah, I feel like, that you make a good point about approaching
I got him
people.
in my neck.
We'll touch up on that as well. But, just going back to being unafraid in a way where don't even feel the intimidation is what I would say in general, because, I was once there and so were you. And that's how I met you. And you never know where these lifelong friendships are going to take you. You never know where that next phase is going to take you.
That's so true.
I saw you doing, what was it? Was it leg presses? Guys, I remember it being a one-arm dumbbell row, but you said it was leg press, right?
No, it was leg extension.
Leg extensions.
I was sitting down doing extensions, and I seen this kid. He looked like Spider-Man going from wall to wall. But because I don't really look up too much, I'm so looking down, and waiting to do my next set down. I'm just zoned in.
So people that don't know you, how do you do your set when you're in it? You're really involved, right?
No, my muscle, my mind and my muscles totally dialed in. It's the minute how about this? When I lock my car, something goes off here and something goes on here. Well, when I walk in, a lot of people who don't know me well but seem to see me in the gym, they give me a pat in the back, a thumbs. Some people remember that. I get it done. It happens a lot in the gym. So I don't keep tabs on names. A lot of times they come in and they, hey, what's up, John? And I'm not that happy when I first walk in. I want to train hard. They take it a little personal. Yeah, I was waving to you the other end.
I feel like that's such a, and I want to go back to that point where you were saying about the leg extensions, but I feel like that's such a stigma that people have a typecast. And I feel like not only just bodybuilders, but anyone you could walk around in the street with something that someone doesn't like you wearing, and you'll get judged by that. And I feel like it's such a bad judgment, because you haven't, number one, heard one side of the story, which is how you are feeling or what you're going through. Or
you never even heard one syllable out of my mouth or one sentence.
Exactly.
Right.
And so you get judged by, I'm sure, the way you look all the time, and I'm going to stay away from this guy. He looks too beastly or too, mechanical.
Yeah. I get that a lot. It sucks because a lot of the people that feel like that when they're around you, like they're intimidated because you're big and strong, listen, some of those are the most nicest people.
I feel like you can compare them to even from, I ride motorcycles, but I feel like you can compare them to like bikers that are assembled, where you just don't want to approach sometimes with the biggest teddy bears.
That's interesting, actually.
Not all of them, but like the majority are. And I feel like it's the same way with lifters. Yeah, with lifters and fitness. But go back. I want you to go back to that story of when we first met, because I was going to make a point of it.
Oh, okay. So I think it was legs. I don't know what I did that day, but I do know I did extensions for sure. So I'm doing leg extensions, and I see this guy on the side of my peripheral view going from wall to wall. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So I'm looking up, and it's John. I didn't know him. So I just said to myself, I kind of think this kid's trying to signal me. I don't know. I said, just do your set. So dialed in, and I felt the silhouette approaching. My eyes go up, it's John, but he was so nice the way he was used by his body language to say hi. Took my headphone out. I says, can I help you, sir? And he goes to me, I just got to ask you, what do you do for your body? And when he came across like that, I said, this is a freaking genuine guy. And a fixed smile versus a genuine smile. Same smile he has now. So it just opens you up, makes you kind of disarms, drop your guard, and you start talking more. It was one of the nicest people I ever met in my life. Sure enough, 22. 14 years later, I'm sitting right next to you, still talking to you. Same frame of thought, same respect, share same good times, right?
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. And I feel like it goes back to when I first entered. I would have been really afraid to I guess, approach you at that time. But at the phase I was in my life, I was doing I think I was on my second contest or something at that point. And I had gotten into the mode of being bodybuilder, but I'm not, I feel like people take that too serious sometimes where, yeah, you're embracing yourself and you're in fitness. And I feel like it's just what Arnold would say at one point where, you have to laugh at yourself a bit sometimes because it is kind of funny. You are out there, being in the best shape of your life. That's the whole key that I also want to point out at some point. But it's the key of being in the best shape of your life, but you've already won. When you got out on stage, you've already accomplished that point that you wanted to get to. The trophy is just an add-on.
Correct.
And so when I was in the gym focusing on, getting to this strategic point on stage to where I needed to be to claim a victory, right?
Right.
I felt a little bit more confident, and then I approached you, but I felt like I had gained so much knowledge over the years. And even now, I have gained so much knowledge after talking. We talk for like 4 or 5 hours sometimes a night.
Well, think about it. I have to grow too, right? So in time, I'm like 10 years older than him. So I'm going to learn a lot of knowledge based on injury, maybe based on things that I thought I knew. And I'm only going to share that with you, what I've learned. I've learned so much from being hurt, unfortunately.
Hurt in what way?
Well, I'll talk about the pandemic. Let's talk about that. So naturally, during a pandemic, no one's got places to go for a gym. Thank God I had a place in New Jersey. Long drive. It was like 90 minutes to Paterson, New Jersey. But driving, when you get older, your lower back locks up on you bad. And you don't know it until you arrive at that destination. You come out, and half the people I was training with, they're coming in. It's like a padlock gym. So they're walking up the stairs going.
That was on the onset, right?
Yeah. It's like that. So, things change in your routine when you get older. But you start saying, oh, man, I got to stop going to physical therapy. It's not really helping me. It mitigates the problem, but I need a solution. And it can only get a solution through strengthening overactive muscles, underactive muscles, weakened, debilitated muscles, things that we think we use every day. And we do, but not enough resistance to keep them strong, like your glutes. Once that goes out.
Something you told me that actually, it helped me immensely, just from being more mobile.
In what way? Your lower back, less problems?
Well, the glutes, working on those and making those really strong. I just felt like in general, I was having a little bit more of a strain when I was doing either runs or if I was doing fast sprints or even squatting at the gym.
Yeah.
I felt a tremendous difference because it gave me more power. You even saw the imbalances when I was doing it. My knees would shake a bit. I thought I was doing it correctly, but really one part of the leg was angled a little different and I didn't realize it.
You get more horsepower.
That's
much
a good way
more
of putting
horsepower. Well, all the power is generated from the ground up. What do you think they teach fighters when they throw a punch? The horsepower comes from the ground up. You drive down with your glutes and your hips and bang, throw a punch.
It makes so much sense to me. I know I definitely felt the difference.
Yeah.
Let's talk about going back to the pandemic era because I know for me, it was definitely an adjustment and a bit rough. It was rough on me mentally, I'm sure, as it was for everyone. And being part of the fitness world for so long, I never had taken a massive break until I went to LA for a little bit. Well, I was there for about 9 years. But when I was there, I took a little break for a solid 4 or 5 months. But this was the longest stint where...
You did nothing for 4 or 5 months?
Well, yeah, I did nothing. And even with pandemic, it was 2 years now, almost. Yeah. Okay, and I was, either afraid to go into the gym or, so I was lifting cast iron pans and pots in my house and it was working, but it wasn't stimulating the way I know I need to be stimulated.
Sorry to cut you off. No park, pull-ups?
Yeah, like I said, also for me at that time, it was a bad frame of mind that was in.
Oh, okay, we're going upstairs now, sorry. Okay.
But for you, when you were talking about how you lived during through the pandemic, what was that like? What did you do?
Torture. Like anybody else, I bet. So it was torturous to me because the most important thing to me is well-being up here. Your mind says for you to put one foot in front of the other and keep walking, right? So I said to myself, I'm only used to releasing endorphins to feel better one way. I'm not a person who does drugs, so I'm not going to be able to release them synthetically or fictitiously, right? I'm a person who can't just do pull-ups like they say. Like my friend owned a gas station. It's like 10 blocks away from my house. The first 2 weeks, apart from walking by the water to keep my metabolism flowing and my heart rate up, I said, why don't I keep my heart rate up twice as hard and challenge myself? I don't got people around us, energy, so I'll create my own energy. So I walked all the way, I was speed walking to his place, I said, once I get there, my destination, he has a pull-up bar. I must do 100 pull-ups. Takes 10 sets, 20 and 20. Took me 10 sets, needless to say. Dropped down to the push-ups, came all the way home. That was fine for about 2 weeks. Then I don't know where my brain I just didn't feel good. I felt like not burnt. I don't get burnt really doing calisthenics, doing heavy weights. But I realized I needed a challenge. So after being relentless and looking and asking, a lot of people denied me. They had little studios. They didn't want no one in there. They had their own thing going on, thinking you might make them sick, or if people are watching, they'll catch on to them. And I get that, and I respect it. It's a hard pill to swallow, knowing you would do that for people, but it is what it is, right? So ultimately, funny story. My client I had that drove from Toms River, New Jersey, the only good thing I ever got out of him was a good source to go train over there, because he sucked as a client. And I don't mean that he didn't train hard. He did, but the way he would cancel sessions when you're like 5 minutes apart made me nuts. Anyway, he put me on to these state troopers in New Jersey, because one of his other trainers, he had 2 trainers, was a guy that worked, he trained a couple of state troopers. He goes, you look like a cop. They might think, you'll hang out out there, here's a key, you pay $100 every 4 months, and you go work out. So I did that. But as I was doing that, my lower back was killing me. And I realized from the long ride, when you sit, we're not really seated in that position. When your feet are straight down, like your right foot, what do you think happens to your hamstring? It shortens. We all know muscles that shorten, they tighten. You ever sleep 8 hours, you get up, your muscles are short. That's why you should foam roll the first thing upon waking. That's a must do.
That's something I'm also learning too from you, because it helps immensely with whenever you're sore. I realize, like you were saying, it always happens when I'm doing like leg workouts with the quads, and I do a foam rolling on there. It hurts really bad, or the calves. I even feel a little bit of a tension right here, but
back in there.
When I foam roll it out, like you were saying, it hurts so much. But after that initial really bad pain, I feel more of the blood flow going through. I feel like I have more energy in it, if that makes any sense.
Yes, well, you're creating more blood flow. That's why. So when you're foam rolling, when you feel that pain, you're actually breaking up acidic blood, lactic acid, and inflammation. When you break that down, it hurts. Like, that's painful. But once you break past that painful threshold or barrier, you're pulling out acidic blood in return for fresh blood and oxygen. And how's that going to help you? You break down nutrients better, you become stronger quicker, and recovery, man.
That's the main key, is the recovery, I feel like, too, because it's, people always say like, you get your 8 hours of sleep, or even 6 or 7 hours of sleep, efficient enough, whatever your body needs at that point, right? But it's the recovery that you're doing when you're not sleeping, is what you're really saying. Right,
correct. I even go as far as, I make sure, this is a little extreme, but...
Nothing's extreme, it's okay.
I got black trash bags over my window. Because I don't let no light come into my room, especially when you're sleeping. You made your own
blackout curtain.
And if anyone was to sleep besides me in that room, they might go like this, like 2 in the morning, if they got to get up and pee, thinking that someone ball and chain them into some dungeon, kind of like,
well, kind of like how it is.
You hang them on one of these.
Golden age.
Hang them on one of these things here. So, that's pretty much how that works.
All right. Now, going back to that story that you were saying, you went out to the clients, you had 2 state troopers that you were meeting out in Jersey during the pandemic era.
Yes. So I'm driving there about 4 days a week.
Wow.
Now the blessing about that was that there's no one on the road.
Well, plus you were able to stimulate yourself by getting out. I mean, I was one of the people that was very susceptible, and I was like, I can't go outside. I don't know what's going to happen. And that's just more of the general, I guess, fear that I was feeling too, because I'd never seen something like this.
You really had to feel like that?
Yeah, well, you know why? I first saw this when it was happening, and I'm a huge sports fan, NFL, baseball. I mean, not baseball, not so much, but basketball as well. And I've played these sports. And once I remember sitting at home, and it was close to midnight, and they had said like NHL was canceled the season, or the NFL was canceled for the season. I went, all right, cool. There's something really wrong here, because that's billions of dollars on the line, number one. Nobody wants to be short on that. They would never do that for any other reason. And I said, okay, something's really off. So I'm not going to say I bought into that, because in the beginning it was straying off topic a bit, but in the beginning it was kind of worrying. But it's amazing to see that you were actually out there still pushing what you wanted with fitness related stuff.
Yeah, I think that's because when I want something, I don't think, I just do. You know, there's some things you have to think about before you do them, but it's not long until I just embark and act.
Sure.
I knew that I'm only going to feel good up here unless I create motion, right? What do they teach them in fighting too? When they're nervous, say motion relieves tension, right? You get tense, you're locked up. We're humans. We're meant to be social creatures, right? You got no one around you. There's no energy. And let me tell you something real quick. All the people we say when we come in the gym, it's like, oh man, this one's here now, or that one's here now. He's going to take 9,000 hours on that machine.
And we've all had it happen. I confess I even had that happen where I'm like, oh man, but I look at it differently now.
Right. Those very people that you can't stand when you're walking in the gym, you realize you need them when you're in a pandemic. You start looking for the people that you move away from naturally when you're in the gym. And that made me more wise too.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Because that's really interesting that you said that, because it shows a lot about humanity, I think, too.
Humanity as a whole, yeah. It made me think about things more on a universal level, you know? So energy, people are energy. You hear that, you're like, people are toxic. What do you mean, right? But when you're training and you're around these people and you don't know what you're doing, or they don't know what they're doing, it starts to annoy you a little bit. It's only when it's taking from you, like the carpet's pulled underneath your feet. That's what it feels like when you're stuck in a room doing dumbbell curls, because you only have access to 10-pound dumbbell curls.
Yeah, it's super isolating, especially from someone that needs other pieces of equipment in order to feel mentally stimulated rather than physically too.
And me as a trainer, like, for me to feel, me personally, to feel good about something when it comes to training, I need clients because they bring the best out of me. I'm not happy until I transform them. And it's not just that, it's the smile on their face when they look really friggin' happy. And I could feel the change that they're feeling. I obviously see it, but I like when they see it and they feel it. It makes me feel like I did something good.
You know, I mean, it brings everything back full circle to why, you know, we wanted to start the show, is because, number one, you know, we wanted to give back to people that, you know, you don't have to be a bodybuilder in order to enjoy it. You know, you can just be an everyday person. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it as, you may have a 9-to-5 job. You may not know specific times about when you want to physically train your body, you know, in other ways, you know what I mean? But not in the gym. And, you know, being part of the fitness world had changed my life so much. And I know for you, it's the same way, that I just felt there had to be another humanistic way to approach people rather than discarding them because you don't know enough. Or,
absolutely.
You know, I've seen so many of these, you know, shows, not to name a few because I've seen a bunch, but I don't want to name names. But I've seen a bunch of different shows or podcasts where I feel like it is such a individual approach to stuff where it puts off the people that want to get in because either they want more likes or they want more marketing or they want more, you know, Patreon subscriptions, which we will have, but it's going to be a different methodical way we do it that really helps the people that are, you know, putting towards that. Yeah. But in a general sense, I just feel like we've gone so astray from just being human individuals talking to one another. And the pandemic accentuated that because we didn't have much contact.
I think we also see is people, there's a lot of people that have a hard time expressing themselves. So think about it. They express it, but they're awkward, right? Then a pandemic happens. Now it's like them feeling awkward is multiplied by 10. And now they just pull away from you. Then there's people who just know how to talk. There's people who are more personable. They're more in touch with that universal side, that we're energy. Let's not sit here and discriminate towards one another. Let's see what's behind door number 2. Let's talk to them. He's in the gym. He's doing the same thing. I don't know if he's chasing the same goal. His muscles are pretty thick, but it's got to be mentally correct here to be in here. Or maybe he's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or maybe she is. Maybe she's not.
Well, that's part of the reason why entering a lot of the gyms that I've seen nowadays versus of when I first started or when you first started, is that even though the generation gaps were, you know, 10, 12 years or whatever it was, it makes no difference because it felt like there was a real helping camaraderie there. And there was people that, hey, I'll drop my, I know I'm an intense guy and I'm into my workout and I'm doing what I need to do. And even for myself, when I was training for contests, you know, it's a very vigorous type of a program that I feel anyone can get into if they really wanted to. There's no, I'm the one person that can teach you, or I'm the one person that can tell you exactly how to get there. You know, I feel like when I was doing that, yes, I was in my own mode, but if someone were to ask me, I would kindly say, hey, you know, once I'm done with my workout, I'll gladly answer your question. Or if I was feeling good that day, who cares? I would say, let me help you, because that's how I was helped. That's how I was brought into a positive thing in my life that had, you know, made a chain reaction for the rest of my life. I use this part of it every day, you know, whether I'm doing acting, whether I'm talking to someone, whether I'm giving someone advice on stuff that I might know about, you know.
Right. So you wanted to give back. You wanted to give back, basically.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm getting from this. That's amazing. That's why we're here. I'm giving back too. And like we said before, I don't want to name certain names or nothing like that, but I just feel like some things could be expressed a little bit differently when it comes to nutrition, lifting weights, physiology, kinesiology, anatomy, things like that. It helps with program design, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, just like you were saying, I mean, and even going back to when you were doing stuff in the pandemic, you know, it's commendable even to get out there and do that. Just because I know how most of the people were feeling, because I was part of that populace of feeling a little intimidated or scared. And
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah. It was a strange place, I feel, for everyone. I can't speak for anything else but myself, but you know, it was a time where, you know, everything that you have access to is now shut. And I'm very goal oriented. You know, I've always been that way my whole life. I've been very driven towards something. That's why we connect really well, I feel. Yeah. But I always had to have something on the horizon to strive for and go after. And when there was nothing, you know, okay, you can't, maybe I'll do another contest. Can't do that. Yeah. You know, maybe I'll apply for a class. Can't do that. You know, and so it was really left at your own unknown devices. And I learned a lot about myself during that time.
Yeah, it sucks.
You know, but it transitioned everywhere.
But the good thing is you learn a lot about yourself too, right?
Most definitely. I mean, I learned a lot about me as a human. Yeah. And I translated that back into, okay, what are the things that I truly miss, that I truly need, that I truly care about? I feel like you can make millions of dollars, okay, and be uber successful. And success, I feel like, is just something that should be thrown out the window, because it's just a manifestation of an idea that society has created. You are successful because of this. But it really helped me wipe that slate clean and sort of, I don't know, begin anew at one point. I had to kind of be crushed in order to begin anew. If that makes any sense. Crushed? Yeah, like physically, mentally. I mean, it was something where I had to kind of rebuild myself over again.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Because I had, the things I thought I had valued had no real value anymore. Yeah. And the things I had maybe a little value had extreme value now, like family or friendships or, you know, people you're involved with. You know, it didn't matter.
I don't think people impacted that bad. I mean, I know it's hard to get access to certain things, but I didn't think that they were that set back mentally. I didn't know that.
Well, you know, at that point,
I felt like a caged animal. That's why I had to get out.
That's what was that's what was fascinating for me to hear, is that feeling like the way you did and being able to get out there and do that, it really shows a part about your character.
I had to do it. No one was going to do it for me. Understand something. I love my family to death, but none of them are really athletically inclined. They don't believe in it, or they just don't do it, or they just say they work too much. So having that mindset, it's always there. Even if you're surrounded by people who are not driven that way, you know that what you love to do, and that is fitness. In order to do that, you got to, like I said before, put one foot in front of the other and go. You just got to go.
Well, touching up on this, one of our last topics of this segment is basically what motivates you in the present day for getting into the gym. You know, because I know we talked about this at length on the phone before, and you asked me that question and you said, oh, that's really interesting of what you said. But I'm curious on your standpoint, and I'll tell you mine. But what really motivates you to get into that zone today versus where you were?
Mental health.
Can you elaborate?
Yes, I can. So back in the day, all I was in touch with going to the gym was a pump. I was fascinated by the pump. I would say, wow, I got really big arms, flex in the mirror. And I wanted to see that. I always wanted to chase that pump. Pecs, chest, legs, back. But eventually, you do still chase the pump. We get injuries, you get older, you slow down with that. But you find a nice happy medium between doing that and doing corrective work. So I have to release endorphins a certain way. I have to train hard.
You need something stimulating, whether it would be mentally, physically, something.
Yes. So I'll say in this case, the gym is the stimulus. Okay. So I realized that I need that to motivate me and drive me to keep going, is that facility, that place, that destination, wherever it's going to be, what gym it's going to be. I need the equipment. If I don't have resistance on that level or greater, I start to go down, little by little.
That makes sense.
It's more mental health. I know the pump is going to come. I used to always say, I'm only going to get a good pump to be stronger, to be better than I was yesterday. But, you know, things change when you get older. You know, when you go there, you're only wired to train one way, which is going to require a massive pump. But now it's about mental health.
Yeah, I think that's a huge topic, and we're definitely going to touch up on that for sure. And I agree. I mean, even for myself, it's not easy sometimes wanting to get up and get in there. And I mean,
it's not, no.
I feel like once we, I just got a notification, we're going to close our segment really soon, but I want to touch up on this last point.
Sure.
Is that, you know, I feel like that mental motivation is what really helps you. And I get up some days and you know, we even talked about this. He happened to me, like 2-3 months ago, where I took about 2 months off because I had a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
Unrelated to like mental health. It was more of just, I was active and doing stuff. And I feel like, yeah, I would get up and say, I'll just give it another day. And I remember you were saying, John, I think that it'd be wise for you to get in there on like the 26th instead of waiting until like the 3rd or 4th. And I went, yeah, all right. And even myself now, I said, no problem. But in the back of my head, there was that little voice that says,
get in there.
No, it was the opposite. It was like, let me put this off. But then something happened where I woke up and I said, you know, this is not something that's going to be beneficial for you. You need to get yourself in there. And I kind of shifted a little bit to that mentality of contest mode.
Nice.
I needed to get back in there.
Yeah, whatever it takes to get back in there.
It was whatever it takes to get back in there. And honestly, you helped pull me through that as well. And I appreciate you, man. I have much love for you.
No problem.
But we're going to close this part of the segment until next week. This is, again, the Training Gain podcast with John and John. I always say Big John. But definitely follow us on all the social media. We're going to have Spotify coming as well as Apple Podcasts and YouTube. And we're going to have a Patreon coming at some point pretty soon, and a cool little merch store in the future. But if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, it is John_Kioskerides, KIOSKERIDES. Have to spell that out. I'm sorry, it's long. And John's got his own plugs for you.
So mine is unique_physique23. That's my Instagram.
Excellent. And John is, as you'll learn throughout this whole process, he's not only inspired me, but I'm hoping that he can give back in a ways because he's super knowledgeable about a lot of stuff. And as we'll get into those topics in the future, hopefully you'll come and join us next week. We've got a lot of cool stuff that we're going to be talking about, ranging from mental health all the way down the line. And we're just, you know, think of it as kind of like a cafe talk. You know, we're just cafe talking it up in an old school rugged gym that reminds us of our birthplace of when we got in there. So we hope to see you all next week.